Black Clover is a series with a plethora of villains, a lot of them. There's Zagred, there's Patry, there's different kinds of villains for the series, but have you ever asked the question, who is the most important villain in Black Clover? Now, you may be easily answering that and just say, it's obviously Lucius, it's obviously Zagred, he introduced us to the devils. But what if I told you that the most important villain isn't Lucius, it isn't Zagred, it's Zenon Zagradus? Now you may be thinking and wondering, Red Cloak, what are you talking about? But hear me out and let me cook. I'm going to prove to you that Zenon is not only one of the most important villains in Black Clover, but is essential to Black Clover's plot and essential to everything in the final arc, being the Judgment Day arc. Because I think if Zenon doesn't exist, Lucius doesn't win his war, Lucius doesn't get his perfect world, which he's trying to get, and the Dark Triad fail in their mission to opening the gates of the underworld. But before we begin, it's the Red Cloak. It's been a while, guys. I have not been uploading. I'll get to that in a whole separate video, but if you like the video, you want to see more Black Clover content, leave a like, subscribe, and again, hit that bell notification always to be notified whenever I upload a video. Now, back to the main topic. Now, Zenon's first introduction is when he immediately destroyed the Diamond Kingdom. Like, it wasn't even close. He destroyed them and beat them easily. Zenon, in my opinion, and I think everyone can agree, is the most dangerous of the Dark Triad. Why is that? Because Zenon doesn't play around. He isn't like Monica, he isn't like Dante. He does know that he has a job to do, and that job is to see the world that Lucius was going to make for him. Because, in my opinion, Zenon was the most loyal to the Dark Triad. He was the most loyal to Lucius, because in his eyes, Lucius could bring back Alan. Lucius could give him a world where no one could die, and that he couldn't have to live in a world where he could fear death, or he could fear that he might have to take the life of his rival, which he did already, being Alan. I've talked about Zenon a whole lot on this channel, and I feel like I've been just a broken record when talking about him and his backstory. So if you want to see me go in depth about Zenon as a character, I made a whole video about Yuno versus Zenon and the beauty of their battle. Go check it out, probably one of my best videos. But I am going to say this, in the abridged version of Zenon's backstory, is Zenon had a rival called Alan. Alan helped him and changed his life, and Zenon wanted to be just like Alan. Well, not just like Alan, but his rival. He wanted something more. He wanted to become the Spade Kingdom's equivalent to a Wizard King, which is the mage defense captain, I'm pretty sure. Let's continue. Lucius gets what he wants. Zenon joins him, Vonica, and Dante in their efforts to create a world where people can't fear death. Based his whole Undying Bodies plan. And now Lucius can now let Julius take over and go to the Clover Kingdom, let him become Wizard King, while his siblings take care of the Spade Kingdom and basically rule it. But what if this wasn't how it went? What if Zenon decided, you know what, I still don't want to be a part of your plan, Lucius, because I still want to be the Spade Kingdom's equivalent of the Wizard King. So what does Lucius do, huh? What does he do? Because he can't just replace Zenon. It's not like that. Now, with Zenon possibly not being a Dark Triad member, this causes major issues with the plot and the story and Lucius's plan as a whole, because he loses out on a whole Dark Triad member. And you know that he needs their magic to create these bodies and create these artificial humans that he can create and make them undying, basically the Paladins. And with Lucius losing out on bone magic, he doesn't make Paladins because he still needs the bone magic and he can't make anything out of nothing. So that's bad for Lucius because he loses out again on another magic ability. But Lucius losing Zenon also means the Dark Triad loses out on their most dangerous and deadly member, being Zenon. In Lucius's own words, Zenon had the most aptitude just like him to be a devil host. In my opinion, I felt like that meant Zenon was the most important to his plan and was probably the strongest Dark Triad member that wasn't Lucius. I could understand why some people would just say, like, we haven't seen Vonica and Dante's backstories yet, so why would you just assume that he didn't just say this to, like, Vonica and Dante, saying that they had a greater aptitude than him? Well, it's because, again, I know that they didn't show the backstory. Tobias hasn't showed the backstory of the other Dark Triad members or Lucius in general, but I feel like if it was like this, I feel like it would have been, like, hinted at. But it never is. Vonica doesn't have the aptitude like Lucius, neither does Dante. In my opinion, I think Dante is possibly a worse devil host than everyone else in the family. Zenon, on the other hand, Lucius thought so highly of him that he wanted him to know that, yo, you could be just like me. And obviously, this was a way to get him on his side. Now, theorizing about the Dark Triad's backstory is pretty difficult and hard. In my opinion, I like to sum it up that Lucius did play a part in their lives and manipulated them emotionally. and use their trauma and like terrible moments against them so they could join him. But the biggest elephant in the room is that if Zenon doesn't become a Dark Triad member, Dante's dead. Like, he's actually just dead, because Zenon was the one who bailed him out. Zenon was the one who got him and captured Yami, because Zenon did double duty. Dante is not going to do that with William because he's going to be dead and there's no Zenon to save him. Now you could say Vonica could get there, but like, I don't know about Vonica's travel speed being that fast, going from the Heart Kingdom and going towards the Black Bull's base. I don't think she's going to be able to do that. So Dante's most likely dead. And guess what? Yami is as free as a bird if Zenon doesn't exist or isn't in part of the Dark Triad, because Zenon again was the one to capture Yami. But you know who else is going to be fucked over because Zenon isn't a part of the Dark Triad? The Dark Triad themselves, because they need Zenon for the ritual. Even if they somehow capture Yami, let's just say we're going to change some stuff in the story and Vonica gets there in time and is able to capture Yami. Problem, a major problem, they need Zenon to activate the gates. Now, obviously, we know that Morris is able to activate the gates without the Dark Triad being there, but in the beginning, they're going to need him. Unless Morris is able to speed up the process where, like, yeah, we don't need like the Dark Triad or like 3 people to activate it. We just need you two, Dante, and Vonica. But Zenon not being there also messes with some character moments. For example, Zenon and Yuno's dynamic is wonderful. Again, I made a video about that. You should go watch it. But Zenon pushes Yuno to the absolute limit. We don't get Longris accepting that Yuno is the vice captain of the Golden Dawn and realizing that him and Yuno are the same. That him and Yuno are basically the same person, but Yuno chose a different path. He's somebody who strived to be better and strived to get his comrades on the same wavelength as him. But we also don't get Finral and Longris finally teaming up and reconciling. We don't get that. And with Zenon and Yuno, Zenon pushed Yuno to the absolute limit. And without Zenon, Yuno doesn't have that strive. Well, he still has the strive, but he doesn't have the need to get stronger. Like, it's a now I need to get stronger, like right now. Obviously, Yuno has that strive, but Zenon pushed him to the point where he needed to prove himself superior to Zenon, and prove that he was correct in his choices he made in his life. But Zenon doesn't exist here, so he has no one. Now, let's say even if the Dark Triad somehow capture William and Yami, which I doubt. Like, there's like a 2.9% chance that they do it, and that's pure luck and pure, like, nothing else, speculation. Also, without Zenon, the teams are way different. I feel like Longris and Yuno are going to be put on separate teams. I think Longris would get put on a team defeating Dante, or possibly get put and been paired with Dorothy to possibly like stop Morris. I think also Yuno would be paired with Jack and Noct to stop Dante, which obviously, battling Dante long enough, he probably would be able to do it. And this would be bad because Morris is going to be by himself, because Zenon was the one who basically kept Yuno and Longris busy. But if the 2 Dark Tribe members, being Vonica and Dante, are defeated so early, everyone converges on Morris, and Morris is screwed. I also feel like Yuno is just way weaker than in canon, so that's bad for the good guy side and bad for the plot, because we need Yuno as strong as possible to contend with Lucius, and we need him to contend with Lucifero, because Yuno made play after play against Lucifero, and it is the reason why Noct isn't dead, Yami isn't dead, and why Asta is able to get the final blow on Lucifero before he can escape. So if Yuno gets Star Magic any later, or just never gets Star Magic of its own because Zenon doesn't push him to that breaking point where Yuno needs to self-reflect and think about, is what he did right? Is he really righteous in what he's doing? So without that, I don't think they win the fight against Lucifero, because Yuno is the one pushing and carrying that envelope. But let's just say they somehow survive the Lucifero attack. That means Noct's dead, Yami's dead, and possibly Yuno. So let's just say that, okay? Let's get to the final war arc. Without Yuno, Noct, and Yami, Paladin Morgan has free reign to do whatever the hell he wants. Lucius can't get stopped by anyone because Asta's in the Hino country, and I don't think Noel is carrying the Clover Kingdom. Don't even mention Flagon to me, because damn, he's ass. I think you guys get the point. Without Zenon, Dante is dead or captured by the Clover Kingdom and interrogated on, and it means that the gates to the underworld never open. And it never happens because William and Yami aren't captured, and they're possibly just still out there, alive and kicking with their squad. And it also means Lucius is weaker, way weaker, doesn't have paladins, doesn't have clones. And it also means in the Lucifera fight, if it does happen, if they do somehow capture William and Yami, Noct, Yami, and Yuno are possibly dead, which doesn't really bode well for the final arc of the story. But hey, aren't you glad that Zenon is on Lucius' side, and Zenon did get traumatized by what he did to Alan? Yeah, me too. But that's it for the video. If you did enjoy this video and want to see more like it, and do agree that Zenon is one of the most important characters in Black Clover, leave a like and comment, subscribe if you're new, and tell me how you feel. Tell me if there's anyone else you think is more important than Zenon, or a more important villain than Zenon in the story of Black Clover. But this has been the Red Cloak. I'll see you guys on another one. See you later.